good. What up, Jordan?
What's up, my man?
We were just talking about your creative streak, which apparently myself and your father never really knew existed. Maybe you're. I can't. I guess. Yeah.
Brand new. I would have to say it's all been up here and finally starting to put some pen to paper on a few things. So
it feels fun. Good, doesn't it?
I'll be honest, technology. It's Canva. You know, I was told it existed. I've never went in there.
Yeah.
I have like a professional profile in there that I've just never used. And now I get how people make all those, pretty posts on Instagram and this, everything that they do that looks creative. I thought that they were just creative and doing something. Like, no, it does all the hard work for you. And you just have to be able to input some information.
So what we're talking about for people that aren't watching on YouTube is, so this was all created on Canva, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Okay. Wow. That is impressive. So you've done now, is this the third week or second week?
Yes.
The third week, right?
First week, it was just a select few. And, once we kicked off with PointsBet in January.
Well, let's talk about what's, because some people are going to just listen to this. So what are we, describe it.
All right, so PointsBet, it's just another sports book. They've created a new system of gambling called points betting that is also on this site. However, looking across the books, the FanDuels, the DraftKings, props, PointsBet does have the most markets for gambling on games. So looking at the games this weekend, 280 to 300 wagers you can place on these games. And because I've really focused in the prop area, I like them the most because they provide the most props and they have a lot of really cool, stuff on there. Interesting things that you can actually, I can tie back into my fantasy knowledge and just the knowledge of the game and try to make some better bets. We're just trying to bet smarter, more efficiently. And at the end of the day, hey, are we going to get rich off these bets? I'm not, based on what I'm putting down, but it's really more for, the enjoyment of watching the game. I've never had so much fun watching football than being able to follow through with this and have a group of people, right now, my close friends. And after week one, last week, it started to get into the fringe of some people on the outside that were like, this is really cool. And I'm following with you. Yeah. And it's just, creating a network. This is where sports gambling is going. I mean, it's going to get, bigger. We talked about it a few weeks ago on here. I want to try to be I want to be there. I looked everywhere. You got CBS, you got NBC, PFF, Fantasy Pros. They all put out a handful of, bets they like. I watched the different shows here, on the Talking Heads, and it's the difference there. They're focusing a lot more on money line, point spread, the points, and the over and the under. Yes, that's how your grandpa gambled. Now we have the ability to bet on almost every facet of the game, and for me, I haven't followed basketball since Jordan. I started, last week, when the season kicked off, dabbling a little bit into basketball. And I found that, now that I'm locked in my house, I need something to do on Tuesday nights. And it's easy to throw a game on and throw a couple props up there and follow along. And it got me back into the sport. And I'm seeing this, talking everywhere. And right now, there's only a handful of states that can actually do this legally. So
Illinois being one of them.
Illinois being one. Yeah, Illinois being one of them. Colorado. We go live in Michigan next week. So it's growing. And because I consider myself the everyday male individual that consumes things and knows what's going on in pop culture, I couldn't find anything like this. So I was like, why don't I just do it, put it together, see if my friends like it. And the feedback was resounding, like, hey, yeah, let's do this. So short-term goal, have some fun. Long-term goal, I'm going to create a mailer and a newsletter each week. Likely, start doing some basketball, some baseball, and then really build up for next football season where it's hard to do all, every single game. Probably going to pick, the big matchups that you'll see on TV, the Fox game, the late games, the primetime games. That's probably where my focus will lie. But yeah, right now, we got the two of the biggest gambling weeks of the year. Two of the three biggest gambling weeks of the year are this upcoming weekend, Super Bowl weekend, and the NCAA tournament. So why not get it in front of people now?
I think you make a lot of great points, and one of the ones that you hinted at, you talked about websites right now. There's a lot of saturation in the over-unders, the money line, and then the lines in general. So for those that don't know what we're talking about, the money line is, who do you think will win straight up? Let's say, but this week, I'm going to guess the money line's probably like Bucks plus 175 or plus 200 at Green Bay. That's probably like minus like 150 or something like that. So for that, if you bet, what?
Roughly, yeah. I think you're pretty close.
Yeah. I might have dabbled back in the day. might have dabbled. So if you're getting Bucks at plus, let's say plus 200, then if you put down 100, you win 200. Obviously, if they lose, you lose everything. So there's kind of the rub and the casinos get rich. You might just have some fun. Now, Jordan, you could end up getting rich because you are trying to build a platform. For everyone else that wants to just gamble, though, it's a fun way to chime in the game. You have something you can text your buddies about. We're all just kind of stranded on this COVID island right now. It's a great way to have some fun. The other thing, and you touched on this, was you can find anyone's ideas on money line and the lines for the games and things like that. One of the things I found out way back in the day was that when these lines come out, sharp bettors come on them real hard immediately. So the lines that a lot of the casual Joe will see on a Saturday or Sunday, they've already moved several times, and all the sharp guys mostly have already got their money on. And we mean sharp, we mean people that literally gamble for a living. A lot of them live in Las Vegas. They will go to these books. They can they do very well on that. And they only hit probably 55, I think 58% is like unbelievably good. I might even be too high there, but those people go in, right?
Yeah. The target's 55.5. If you get to 55.5%, you're considered on the right side.
There you go. So these people will come in, and they'll come in these like syndicates. There's these big groups. The casinos know who they are. These other people know who they are. Like, for example, one of the big ones that just got pardoned the other day by Trump, Billy Waters. Was a huge guy in the scene, might still be there. And they come in, they'll move. Sometimes these bets are so big, they will move the line themselves. So for the average person, you're swimming in this big ocean. And what I like you do, what I like that you did, and there's a book called Blue Ocean Strategy, and this is what I read when I was trying to come up with my podcast, is the idea is you don't want to go into shark-infested waters. You want to go into somewhere where people aren't swimming. And I like this idea of the props, because the average person can still find tons of value on a Sunday morning, say rolling out of bed at 10 a.m., because these individual props aren't hit as much. So there is a chance, if you do very well, and we'll go over some of the ones you showed from the other week, where you could roll out of bed, go, I got to get my bets in. I think we've all probably been there at some point, right? I mean, hypothetically, wink, right? You had a fun Saturday night, you stayed out a little late, music was going, everyone's happy, and then you wake up and you go, it's 11:30, I didn't put my bets in, and you scramble. We've all been there. It's horrifying, because you spray the board. It's but this is good. You made it very simple. You give good ideas. So let's walk through. So this is a 7-page PDF for those that can't see. And embarrassingly so, and I told Jordan this earlier, he sent me this a couple of weeks ago. I only saw the first page. So I go, oh, cool design. Like, who made your logo? No, there's literally like 6 pages of prompt. Remember, I had texted you too. I go, what do you got for today? And I think you just screenshotted me from what you made.
I get that text message every morning, every Sunday morning. Is, what do you like today? I'm like, okay. I get, well, hey, I'm usually texting it out. What if I would just give this to you on a Thursday, and hey, you go about doing it yourself. Now, what I do like about the props is you make a very good point. You're not going to see these these yards move. You're not going to see overall touchdowns move.
Not like a game line, no.
And so you're able to, if you have a feel of what you think the game's going to look like, you can make a better, it's hard to say, or the right bet, but a more intelligible bet when it comes to, you're still getting the -110 plus 100s on, again, they're only putting the top, it's only the top players in there. So very much like fantasy, it's going to be guys' names you see getting called all day. So
let's walk through the games, and let's start with Bucks Packers. First thing you highlight is the weather. 28 degrees. So the first thing that jumps out at me, 28 degrees, is I'm instantly leaning more towards unders on Brady because older quarterbacks seem to have issues with cold weather. Rodgers is also getting up there a little bit. When you see this weather, what are your first reactions?
So they, based on actually just like an hour ago, we're going to see some snow. I think it's going to subside by halftime. They don't expect much accumulation. And I'll be honest, this is warm for a January Sunday in Green Bay. This should not affect the game that much.
Your audio went out.
I think the field will be a little
Jordan, your audio went out.
With 28 to 30 degrees, the field's going to be able to be heated. So it's not like they're going to be running on concrete. But I don't expect it to, barring some major change here, to affect that much. The wind's going to be under 10 miles per hour. If you watched any of last week, you saw, okay. I think it was closer to 16, 17 mile per hour last weekend. And it was they were having trouble out of the wind tunnel. There was a wind tunnel coming out of the tunnel. And so I don't expect wind to be as much of a factor. I put it here because I think it's important to know, you don't need to go look at Google now. This is literally what Google's going to tell you. In Green Bay on Sunday at kickoff, it's going to be 28 degrees with the chance of snow showers. And
hey, I gotta interrupt you real quick.
I did so my fantasy podcast. That was one of my big things for the playoffs. Is if you have a kicker going, you have a quarterback going, you really need to check the weather. Starting on Thursday, Friday, because I've seen games where there's a torrential snowstorm in week 13 up in Buffalo. It's going to change some of the decisions you make. So I felt that's a nice important little factor to have, and the average individual going there and looking is going to say, hey, I now know what we're looking at. This might look like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a running football game. I don't think it'll make too much of a difference. Now I have been posturing this theory for the last few years about.
Wait! Don't do it yet.
Back and looked at.
Can you hear me?
The average temperature and his rush performance, and I don't love him in games where it's under 40 degrees. His body's not meant for it. He's from Louisiana. He played at LSU. He played at Jacksonville, and then his first few years in the league, he came in, and by December he was garbage. He just couldn't run in the cold weather. So I'm really curious. I'm not doing much with Fournette this weekend. One, because I thought Ronald Jones looked a little bit more explosive. But I want him to break that mold for me. I want to see him come out there and for the temperature not to be a big factor for him. But he's the only person I'm really afraid of in this game when it comes to temperature. And,
hey, I think your headphones went out.
You're muted. I can't hear you, man.
No, your headphones went out.
Is it me?
Yeah, your headphones. Yeah. We'll take a pause here. Pause. We're back on.
Yeah, the only one I'm worried about this weekend is Fournette. I got this theory I've had over the last few years that he doesn't run well or play well in games when it's under 40 degrees. Comes from the SEC, played in the South his whole life. He's from the Louisiana area. Got drafted to Jacksonville. By the time he was a great fantasy running back first 10, 12 weeks of the season. But when they had to start going into cold weather later in the season, there was always that fear that we're looking at a 50-yard game. He just never seemed to be able to get out of the gate. So I don't see this as being a big a weather game. We're not looking at shouldn't affect much, but he's one I don't love, not only because of the weather, but because Ronald Jones looked great. He looked explosive in those short yards. We know he can't hit top speed, but he can still hit the hole hard. So
What is it about Ronald Jones where they just bury him for long stretches? He always looks better than Fournette. Am I missing something? I don't get it.
So he's got a bum quad. If I'm not, I think his quad is not great.
Jones?
So correct.
Okay.
So he's able. So he was a late scratch the wild card weekend. I mean, now he was set to play, and he just sat on the sideline the whole game. So he tweaked it in pregame. Now I'm holding off on Fournette bets until I know for a fact Ronald Jones is starting. Now, if Ronald Jones isn't in there, those are solid bets.
Let's go. Let's go through some of them. So let's go first one. So you got this first fire bet, first touchdown. You want to tee up a little bit on your track history, track record with this?
Davante Adams. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Guy had hit 7 times going into the playoffs. The last time he hasn't since week 13, since week 12, he's hit first touchdown every single week except week 15.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And he did it again last week. And what we're seeing, at least what I'm seeing in these games, if you go back and look, the first touchdown has been by either team, usually their top receiver, whether it's been Diggs, Kelsey, Evans, Davante Adams. So I don't expect that to change. I love this bet just because of the sheer potential. I mean, it probably won't happen again, but because it's happened so much, it's my favorite bet of the week. It's going to be my favorite bet the rest of the year. You saw what he did to Jalen Ramsey with 1 yard. He's why even try to run it up the middle when it's that easy for Davante Adams to score a touchdown within 3 yards?
He's playing at the highest level I think he's ever played at in his entire career.
And this is just as good of a defensive line as the Rams. I mean, this front seven is excellent. So come and get into the red zone, especially in those early drives. Those teams are practicing their red zone. They have 5 plays they're looking to run. They're going to the guys. Like they're not throwing it to the right tackle. These aren't the times when they're throwing, they're playing, somebody crazy scoring like early in the season. It's the freaking playoffs. It's the NFL. It's the conference championship. They're going to their studs.
This is the freaking playoffs. I love that line. This is a freaking Catalina wine mixer of NFL games.
Exactly.
It happens all the time. This is usually the best weekend of football. It's not usually the Super Bowl. Super Bowl can be very hit or miss. That Patriots-Rams game a couple years ago.
So I typically love the divisional weekend because that's usually the best football and there's the most of it. However, with the Super Wildcard weekend, that was awesome. That was the 6 games. That was full day Saturday, full day Sunday, great slate. This is the best football we get all year. And we couldn't have asked for better. We got the Rodgers and Brady finally meeting in the playoffs in their 36 and respectively 36 and 42 years old of age. It's like watching the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan, going in WrestleMania 11.
Great reference.
Like it doesn't get any better than that. Like so.
Well, let's go into that bet then. So here, name a bet. Is name a bet a segment you're gonna do?
So name a bet is actually within the props on PointsBet. So PointsBet, early in the week, you can submit a bet that you want to make that is not listed, and they'll approve it and they'll give you odds.
That's awesome. I've never heard of that before.
It's awesome. So a few weeks ago, I think we did 5.5 touchdowns, but 5.5 passing touchdowns between Tannehill, Lamar Jackson. Of course, it didn't happen, but that was one that we had submitted, got in. This one, this is a pretty standard one. This is pretty popular. I like it. I'm taking it because in week 6, this is a rematch of week 6. The Buccaneers won 30-10. And so when I say it could happen, it has happened. And I just feel, yes, I don't love the chances of it, of it happening again, but at plus 900, I could throw $5 down and, get back 50 with a realistic bet. I'm riding with it because especially if Tom Brady throws for 300 yards, you're going to see a likelihood that the Tampa Bay Bucks are winning by a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I said something earlier about Brady being older and old quarterbacks in cold weather, but Brady played in New England for 20 years.
It's
so
not going to matter. It's not.
No.
Evans
is the one. Evans is the one I think you might have issues with, because Evans has been in Tampa for I think his whole career.
Just wait till you're gonna love what you see. Then you're a smart man. So I'll give you kind of some backstory on why I feel here. You can keep scrolling down. I see this is going to be a running game. The numbers are all pointing towards this being Brady versus Rodgers. You never get that in the conference championship. Both these defenses are playing well. It's going to be a possession game. And if you haven't noticed, the Packers have been pushing out 3 running backs the last 2 weeks. A.J. Dillon is the new face who has looked pretty good.
Who you mentioned. You mentioned that, yeah.
I like him. Jamal Williams, he's in a contract year. He's rushing for a starting job. He looks great. And then you got Aaron Jones, who might be the best running back on both teams, and he might only get 12 touches. So you got Ronald Jones and Fournette sharing carries on the other side of the ball. Those guys have all looked good. They're going to continue feeding those guys the ball. I don't want to say that Brady and Rodgers is a smokescreen, but the way these secondaries are playing, the way these defenses are playing, and it being the second time that they've played, the weather not being they played last time, it was like an 85 degrees Sunday in Tampa, is a little different. And just seeing what I've seen the rest of the with all these games, the under's been very, very popular, and I expect that to continue. So how I've built some of this, is on the unders. I went a lot of unders on some of these studs, mainly because Evans, he's been a short yardage guy for the last couple of weeks. Since Godwin came back, Evans has been the red zone guy, and Godwin and Gronk and Scotty Miller and Antonio Brown. They have what's the other kid's name? He's a rookie that Brady really likes. They talked about. He had a 30-yard catch last week. They're getting those 10 to 15 to 25-yard catches that Evans is just not getting. And I do not foresee a bomb. I just the Packers secondary is played extremely well, and I just don't see them giving up a bomb to Mike Evans if they know that could come. I could see a bomb to Scotty Miller. I could see a bomb to Antonio Brown. I could see a bomb to Godwin. I just don't see them letting Evans beat them over top. And so that's why I like that under. You see my Fournette under 60 yards when he's sharing carries with Ronald Jones. To hit 60 yards, or no, 42 and a half. Yeah. For him to hit 42 and a half yards, he's going to need a 20-yard run. I just don't see it against that Green Bay defense. And, Aaron Jones, 60 yards. He's sharing carries with 2 other guys. Again, he had the 25, 30-yard rush last week. You take that out, he's sitting right there in the 50s. The way they're sharing touches, I don't see those guys getting to those numbers.
Let's go. Okay, so let's see. So outcome of first drive punts. I like that. I think a lot of times in these big games, you get jitters, people drop passes, their teams are feeling each other out. I could see that. I don't see a first drive touchdown. I'd be shocked.
I don't love the chance of a long field goal. So we'll talk about it later. I like the chances of a long field goal in the other game with the kickers in that game. Yeah. So if you're looking at a 50-yard field goal or to pin the other team back because of the quarterback you have, I'm pinning them deep and trying to give field position to Brady or Rodgers. So that's why I like the punt. And again, I don't see a touchdown either. I see either team coming out, minimal drive, and punting the ball away.
Okay. All right. So I think it makes sense. High scoring half, second half. I think if you're especially, and I wonder if you could parlay outcome of the first drive punt with high scoring half, second half, because if you think the first half is going to be lower scoring, a punt, there's a good chance of that happening. Let's see what else we got here. The other thing, I don't know how PointsBet does it, but with a lot of these websites, you can parlay that. And you have at least one of those I saw earlier.
So PointsBet's not big on the prop parlays. The only place you can prop parlay right now is FanDuel. You're not getting as many options, which is why I like PointsBet. I could foresee that becoming a thing, but because they have so many markets,
Yeah.
to the system they would have to run to price out parlays within these markets, that's a lot.
That's how sportsbook is the same thing, because you'd see props that you're like, oh, I'd love to, parlay the under with this, with, the over on the other side. And they don't have that capability. All right. So quarterback pass attempts, we got the under. Brady under 39.5. I would say that my one counter to these would be, if you're saying that if okay, so let's take a step back. Let's say this is a blowout either way. Let's say one team blows out the other one. I gotta think the other guy is gonna hit over one of these if it's a blowout. So that's like goes to what you were saying, where if in your mind you're playing this out and you think it's gonna be week 6 again, then I would bang Rodgers in the over on the pass attempts. But
Correct.
If you're thinking this is a close game and you kind of have this idea it's a running script, then that I would say too, though, the Aaron Jones under, I think you hit on it. He had that long run, but if this is a game, it's a physical game and they're all running, whoever's got that ball, it's probably gonna be Dylan, right? Or it won't be the guy you think. But someone's gonna rip off a 20, 30-yard, whoever's in the league will rip off a 20, 30-yard run, but it won't be the guy that you have money on.
And yeah, we're looking at 59.5. We have, I don't, 60 yards. So that's going to take him 15 carries on average. And that's against an okay defense. This is a great defense. Yeah. So is Aaron Jones going to have 15 carries this weekend? I don't see it. With Jamal Williams and AJ Dillon, seeing all three of them touch the ball on the first drive last week. So he is the number one, but is he going to be the bell cow? No, he's not going to be the bell cow.
All right. Well, so what is in your mind, so we're thinking it's going to be a running game. You don't think the weather's going to affect too much. What's without looking at the lines, because I'm guessing the line's probably Green Bay, like, I don't know, I'd say 3.
It's moved between 3 and 3.5.
3 and 3.5. Okay. Yeah. Cause I was going to say 5 and I'm like, nah, it's too high. 3 seems like these teams are even, but Green Bay gets the Lambeau boost. So let's say it's a Green Bay -3. What are you saying?
I got the Buccaneers at +3.5. I like that because I can see a field goal winning this game.
Yep.
And I like that bet.
Yeah.
I do see it being a fairly close game. The turnovers aren't going to be there like they were last week with the Saints game. So that was a 10-13, 10-point swing. Yeah. Even with the turnovers, the Bucs were only able to win by 10. So I don't want to say ugly game, but I see a battle, and I don't see a battle on the scoreboard. I think it's just going to be a trench game, and old school football. What I love to see. You go back. I went back and I started looking at some of those old Manning and Brady games, and just trying to get an idea of. You put two of the best up against each other. You see a lot of 24-17s, 26-23s. With those two guys, those are low-scoring games. People don't realize. And if this game ends 24-16, I wouldn't be surprised. So it's one of those where I don't see it being. I don't see it being a firework type of game. So, and again, Tom Brady throwing 40 passes. Like if he throws 40 passes, then it was a blowout, like he said.
Yeah, and probably not in the way he wants. Okay, so we're saying, so yeah, and you hit on a good point too. Take the half point. If you are going to bet the game, you always want to get that I think it's called like the hook, right? You want that half point, because if you're just going 3, there's a good, that's because if everyone ends up betting 3, well, the house is going to win because of the VIG. So you got to be cognizant out there. If you're going to be, if you're wading into these gambling waters, you need to know some of these things, because otherwise you're going to lose money and you're going to not understand why. Although
what we got to do,
wouldn't 3 be a push? Wouldn't 3 just be a push though?
3 would be a push. We might have to do a sports gambling for dummies segment one day. Just teach everybody how to sports gamble.
I like that idea because it took me a very long time and definitely affected my bankroll for a long time figuring it out. And so it would have been nice to know that. Okay, so let's go to again. Of course, everything I did was at the time very legal, and I did it in legal jurisdiction. So moving on. Points bet Bills Chiefs. So here's one where I think they played earlier in the year, and I want to say it was pretty low scoring.
Week 6. Both of these games were week 6.
That's weird.
It's wild. Yes, 26-17 was
Chiefs.
26-17 Chiefs.
And this was in Buffalo, right?
Correct.
Now we don't know if Mahomes is playing, so is there even a line on this game?
There is a line. It's between 3 and 3.5 as well.
For who?
It's the Bills are getting 3. I'm pretty sure. I'll be honest. I'm pretty sure I got the Bills and I was on it. It wasn't when it opened. I think I got both of them at 3.5. I wouldn't go a smidge below that. I'm not to say I love those. I think the Chiefs. I love the Chiefs' chances of winning. I love the Packers' chances of winning. I like those bets if the game ends on a last-second field goal, like most of these games do.
It's great. I mean, it's great value. And you think about the Bills. I think that's really good value because there's a chance that they could look at Mahomes and just say, you know what, your long-term health isn't worth it. Like we'll go with Henny and we'll see what happens. I think they could still win with Henny, which is kind of crazy, but I don't. What do you think? If let's say Henny plays, do you think they still got a shot?
I don't. Yes, they have a shot because 1, it's Andy Reid. 2, Henny's a pro. Henny's a veteran. He's been there a long time. He's been in Kansas City a long time. I think he's been in Kansas City longer than Mahomes has. Wow. And I could be wrong there, but I like the Chiefs because it's Andy Reid. Andy Reid knows his players, and he still has Tyreek Hill. He's got Le'Veon Bell. He's got Travis Kelce, who's
Le'Veon Bell had 1 carry for 2 yards the other week. You saw that, right?
I hammered the under. I hammered the 0 to 9 yards. When I saw that Darrell Williams was going to get the start, hammered all the Darrell Williams overs and all the Le'Veon Bell unders. Beautiful.
Well done. Weather, 44 and showers. What's this do for you?
I think it's going to be a sloshy. We're looking at an October style game. This is football weather. Both of these quarterbacks are big arms, big hands. A lot of big pass catchers in this game. I honestly, the field might be affected a tad. I do think it helps. I do think it helps the under a little bit. Neither team runs the ball real well, so it doesn't really matter. They're going to be putting the ball in the air, and there's going to be some effect now to what it looks like at 5:45. And granted, you got to know it's Wednesday when I pulled this. That forecast could be completely rain could be out of the forecast by then, but it is good to know that the field's probably going to be a tad slower. If you've ever played on a muddy field, it's not that fun, especially when you got fast guys all around. From Cole Beasley to Diggs, to Hill to Kelce. Again, these guys are not going to slow them down, not going to stop them, but you're going to see a couple more slips. And it's usually the offense that's slipping, and not the defense usually aren't the people that are caught out of position. So it takes away maybe 1-2 big plays, which is what's the difference when you start looking at these unders and overs.
First touchdown scorer, Stefan Diggs. Does that go back to what you were saying before, where this is trend, right?
I like the trend. And the only reason I'm going with the Bills, because the Bills have looked excellent out of the gate this year. The Chiefs, not so much. The Chiefs are a second half team. They're a second quarter team. Yes, they did come out against the Browns. They put a touchdown on the board, but they usually start slow. With Mahomes not practicing all week, I expect a slow start out of the Chiefs. Now, we saw it last year. They got down 24-0 to the Texans, an excellent football team with an excellent quarterback, and came back and won. So they can do magical stuff. But when it comes to a smart bet, whether or not the Chiefs get the ball or not, I see them having a slow start, and I see the Bills being the first one to put up a score on the board. And again, I don't want to say a fluke, but if it goes to Beasley or Dawson Knox, Devin Singletary's not going to run it in. He's not going to catch it out of the backfield. it's going to be a 7-yard slant to Diggs. It's going to be a corner to Diggs. Like, that's how they're going to score.
Alternative total under 40.5 at 450. This was another one that you made, correct?
So this is most sites will provide alternative totals.
Okay.
And so they have from like down 26 points over under 26 up to like 63. So, or 65, something like that. I like this number because I look at the halftime scores from last weekend, and we were looking at a lot of 13, 16. Like, it did not, there weren't a lot of games that did over 20 to 25 points. And in a game like this where the defenses are playing better than I expected them to be playing, and you got Mahomes, I see him starting slow. They can't, neither team can run the ball real well. So I foresee a lower scoring game. Again, you go back 26-17, you pull one of those field goals, you're looking at 23-17, there's your 40 points. So
There you go.
That's still 4 touchdowns and 3 field goals. That's a good game. But I like it because it's I like the plus 450.
20-17 or 21-18. 18 is kind of a weird number, actually, but 21-17, you could see that. And that's the type of game where you could see, well, if it's 21-17, you'd probably think one team, that'd be like Buffalo with the ball at the end of the game trying to drive down, or Kansas, someone trying to drive down at the end of the game trying to score that touchdown, and because the field goal doesn't do anything for them. I like that bet a lot.
And we saw a lot more missed field goals last weekend than I ever expected. So, yes, Butker and Bass are both great kickers, but pressure's on. It's tough to make. Justin Tucker. He folded under pressure.
I couldn't believe that. That was like a.
I would never expect that. I'd have been so mad if I had the 2. I think it was Justin Tucker over 2.5, plus 250. I'd have taken that all day.
Oh yeah, that was like for our parents' generation. It was like, where were you when Kennedy was shot? It was like, where were you when Justin Tucker missed a field goal? I was like, well, it's in my parents' house. All right, next first one. Outcome of first drive, field goal attempted. So you went with punt in the Green Bay Tampa game, but you went with field goal attempted here. Why?
Because I like I like the odds plus 450. A $5 bet. It turns into $22, $21. And we got 2 big legs. Like I said, the Butker and the Bass kid, they're not afraid to send those guys out 55 yards and below. And so, not to say that the first drive is going to see that, but these guys get to the 40, a 50-yard field goal on the first drive is not out of the question. It's going to be a lot harder to make that kick in Green Bay with that temperature, with that weather, with the wind. And with the guys kicking. So that's my main, honestly, the main reason I like this first drive field goal. Both defenses have been playing okay. Both offenses can put up yards. And kind of going back to that under, I think getting into the end zone is going to be tougher than normal. The way these defenses are playing. So we're used to seeing them score a bunch of touchdowns against lesser defenses. I see a lot more field goals, and I see them wanting points. Points are going to need to go up. You can't have empty drives. You can't have an empty drive against Mahomes. You can't have an empty drive against Allen. So in other games where, hey, we got Mahomes on our side, we got Josh Allen on our side, we like our chances. Let's score this touchdown here. And I know Tony Romo will probably disagree with me, but I think both guys are on the same playing field now. You need points in games like these. You don't need touchdowns.
Yep, I agree. You got to put some points up, because if the defenses hold, look at last week. What was it? 3-0 going into halftime.
Yeah.
Who saw that coming? High scoring half, second half. Okay. Quarterback pass attempts, Josh Allen under. Quarterback passing touchdowns. Okay, so this is interesting. So you have pass attempts under, but passing touchdowns over. Why do you say that?
40 pass attempts. I went back and looked. He only did it a couple of times this year. And he's not a dink and dunk guy.
He pushes the ball down the field, and so 40 pass attempts is a lot of 40 pass attempts makes it look like they're down by 21 points. It's hard for a good team to throw the ball 40 times. That's just sheer, hey, if Josh Allen passes the ball 40 times, they're going to lose. So that's a loss.
Well, how many did he throw last week? Because he threw a lot. I mean, I don't even think they ran the ball in the first half.
They can't run the ball.
Yeah, that's probably
They can't run the ball at all. I'm going to tell you right here.
I love that you have the stats. Fantastic.
There's a lot of good sites these days. Lakers are up at half. Nobody saw that one coming.
Lakers up at half. I saw his headline. I didn't read it, but apparently they're starting 5 right now. It's just crushing people. But I still think that Brooklyn, if Brooklyn can put it together, I think that's the best team in the league. But I don't know if they're running into the whole Miami problem where LeBron and those guys didn't have anyone around him because the 3 of them took up so much money. I don't know who they have, because that's the thing that the Lakers kind of hit on with AD is he's so good. Like I don't think Durant can guard Davis, and that would be a problem because I don't know who would guard Davis on Brooklyn. I don't think they have any. I mean, maybe what's his face, DeAndre
You ready?
Jordan.
You ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
So 37 pass attempts last week.
Wow. Okay. So I like that on. Okay. Love that on.
Hasn't thrown for 40 since week 15.
Okay.
He did it 6 times, and he only threw for over 40. So he was exactly 40 3 times and over the rest 3 times. One of them was a loss. One of them, week 1, he threw 46. And then in the Arizona loss, that shootout with them and the Hail Mary, he threw 49. So,
wow.
And that game was like that was a scoring barrage. Smart teams, they're going to try to keep the other team off the field. And that doesn't necessarily mean running the ball. It means, taking your time, running your play. I don't see either of these teams going hurry up. So when you got to think that you have the best quarterback in the game, whether you're the Bills or whether you're the Chiefs. It's very different. It's not like you're playing against Patrick Mahomes. This is a heavyweight fight. Who has the best heavyweight fighter? You're going to play your game.
Do you have Buffalo winning this game? Because if you have Allen over 2.5 touchdowns, that means you're telling me he's throwing for 3. That means they're putting up 20. If you're telling me the over-under is 40 and you're banging the under, are you taking Buffalo?
I'm not saying that it is the under will happen. I like the odds on 40.
You just like okay. You just like the odds.
I like
because I'm looking at this.
You got to think most of these I'm doing $5 to $10 bets. And so I like to pepper in some of these. Like I hit plus 450. I'm bagging $25. It's like I like that. If that happens, the game goes that way. I have enough in here that can see it go that direction. But if the Buffalo Bills score 21 points, it's going to be 3 Josh Allen touchdowns.
I think you hit on a good point too. You're doing these smaller bets, these fun bets that aren't super high that can hit big. If you are new to this, you gotta, your bankroll needs to make it past 1 week, and especially with the Super Bowl coming up, don't get. And the one thing I want to warn people, and I don't know if you've been in this spot, but let's say what's the first game? Is it the AFC one?
Nope, we got the NFC game early.
It's the NFC first. So let's say you make some NFC bets and they don't go your way. Be careful about the irrational double down. I've seen it multiple times. I've been involved with it myself. You get pissed, your picks don't hit, and then you think that all of a sudden magically you see these locks in the second game and you double down on those, and then they also don't hit. My favorite was like a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a game. So a bunch of my buddies had gotten crushed all weekend. I think I stayed out of it, but it was It was like Oakland at Washington or something like that. And Oakland was like favored by like 4.5. And I remember they were saying, we're all in on Oakland. I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm like, you're chasing this game. I'm like, this has all the trademarks of you're going to get smashed. And sure enough, I think
it was the Oakland and Chiefs game. I remember where I was when I watched that game. Like Oakland came out and just dominated the Chiefs. And then Patrick Mahomes threw for 5 touchdowns in the third quarter.
We're talking 2 different games, but I believe it's the same concept. Because when I'm talking about, the Redskins won outright on Sunday Night Football by like 20 points. But are you talking about this season?
No, this was a couple years ago. That was a couple years ago.
Okay.
But no, back to some of this here.
Yeah. Singletary under. We're just saying, hey, you're calling this a lock. Why?
Well, so this is the receiving over. He's had at least.
Oh, you're
20
saying,
yards.
oh yeah, okay, that's the over. Good call.
He's had at least 20 yards receiving the last 5 games.
Wow.
There's no more Zach Moss. They can't run the ball, so instead of running, he's getting these 6 to 7 passes a game just out of the backfield. It's going to be a main part of the game.
All right, Kelsey under, Diggs under. Are you saying that because of the score?
I'm saying that because of 95 yards in a game. Betting for someone to have 95 yards, I've done it enough times this year that it's not that easy to score for the best player on the other team to get 95 yards. Yes, both guys could easily go out there and get 95 yards. This is strictly I like the chances that it doesn't happen way more than the chances it does.
When at 115, at minus 115, that's not bad because statistically, I mean, like you said, defenses are going to focus on these guys. They played them. So let's go through it. They've already played each other. They've got tons of tape. These are like their team's biggest weapon. I would argue Kelsey might be the cog of that offense.
He's
outside
the best.
of Mahomes.
He's the best player on the Kansas City Chiefs. That's not Patrick Mahomes.
We got to be a preface that he's best player, not Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Anytime touchdown score, Darrell Williams, single rush band. Okay, Devin Singletary like that. Rushing yards under. I'm just going through this just because I don't want to go too long because people.
He's hit under. Singletary's hit the under. I just pulled it up. He hasn't rushed for over 39.5. He hasn't rushed for 39.5 yards since week 12.
Okay, there you go. He's got it right there. The man's doing his research. Quarterback interceptions. Last time you had interceptions, you had one for Brady, one for Rodgers, and now you got one for Allen too.
Like we saw last week. In games like this, there's a force. There's a Hail Mary at halftime. There's a Hail Mary at the end of the game.
Yep.
When in games that are this close, you toss in a couple of those additional factors. You force a throw here, you force a throw there. You think you need to make that big play. Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw interceptions, but when he does, because it's a pretty good number. I had Drew Brees at 2 interceptions last week at like plus 550, and he ended up throwing 3. So it destroyed me. I was like, I thought I nailed it.
Yeah. Huh? It's pretty good. All right. So longest completion bands, you're saying Mahomes and Allen both 25 to 39. So you're saying there'll be some chunk plays, but you're saying the big ones.
So you go back and look, and I went back and looked at every game on the year. For the I want to say like 60 to 70% of the time, you're falling in this band because of the kind of game it is. 40 plus yards, to get 40 plus yards, that's a touchdown. I don't see any big play touchdowns coming, from either of these teams. They're capable of it. The chance of it happening, the way these guys' arms work, they're gonna get a pass that's above 25 yards. Now, hey, you're gonna get times like Lazard where he puts up the 44-yarder, but I don't see that happening this week. I think we have a pretty clean game. If there's a broken play, I don't expect to see a lot of that with the coaching, with the way these guys have played all year. I expect a very clean game.
Yeah, the Mahomes, I think that plus 120 is pretty good there. I think McDermott's a really good coach. Reed's a really good coach. Both these defenses are very stout. I like that a lot. So last week, you had a couple huge wins. You want to talk about these, because this is actually
I can't take credit for this. This is best friend Tyler Dietz has been testing out some theories when it comes to first touchdowns. So we put $100 down on a bunch of different first touchdown parlays. And we ended up hitting 2.
So you guys put down $100, but you ended up netting, so you end up winning both 456 and 285.
That is correct. On top of wagers that I had Devontae Adams solely first touchdown, Stephon Diggs solely first touchdown, Mike Evans solely first touchdown. So the first touchdowns paid out big. Guys, this is where you make your money. If you're going to do one big bet in the weekend, this is the ones I recommend. When I say big bet, like high odds bets, the plus 500 and above, you put $25 on Devontae Adams at plus 500, what you're pulling back, 150. It's a really good turnaround for something that's happened half of the time this year.
So what was the okay? Wager $2 to pay 456. That's crazy odds. What was that?
It was like 22,800.
Okay. That's what I love it. 22,800. I mean, it's gotta be one of the biggest wins you've probably ever had, right? I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, $2 to win $456. It doesn't happen.
No, like never. That doesn't happen. All right, Jordan, give us, before we go, and then stay on once we go sign off. But so prop lock and drop it. Are you doing any podcasts other than coming on here right now?
So I'm gonna do one leading up to the Super Bowl.
Okay. Love to have you back, by the way.
Yeah, if you want more of this, you want to get it every week, get my number, get my email. I'm gonna share it. This will be a standard, weekly newsletter that I'm gonna send. I'm gonna work it into basketball season. We're working on basketball right now. We're building some baseball algorithms as well. And yeah, it's one of those where we're sports guys. We can gamble. We're not trying to drop $100 a night. Hey, you want to put $15 down? You can flip back and forth on the TV. That's likely the average gambler right now. But yeah, right now PointsBet is who's sponsoring me and what I'm looking to do moving forward. So that's where I'm showing a lot of love. We'll share the sign up code Lifeline with a $50 deposit. You get $100 in free bets. You can split those bets up in 4 ways. So 4 free $25 bets. And what we're trying to do is I want to build a network within PointsBet. They're seeing how what I can do over this next quarter within my network. And the more I'm able to do, the more we'll be able to offer down the line. And yeah, hey, it's void where prohibited, and you got to be 21 and over to gamble, guys. And if you have a problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And if you are watching this in a state where gambling is not legal, please do not commit any crimes. We don't want you to become renegades out there. But Jordan, great job with the picks and the disclaimer. Any last final bets that we didn't talk about that you're just like, I was going to put on there, but I didn't, but now you're like, maybe I would go with that?
So the one that I rolled with last week, I talked about it, and I'm going to ride it till it comes home, is anytime touchdown by AJ Dillon is at plus 850 right now. He had 2 goal line touches last week. He got touches on the first drive. They drafted him for a reason. I talked about it. You need a back like that this time of the year. Another bet I like with AJ Dillon is last TD. So last, what I've done with some of these backup running backs is go last TD as well. So last TD pays just as much as first TD, but you're gonna, in games like this, it's a lot of times gonna be those quarterback sneaks late in the game, those pounding it in with the with the big back. I mean, just go back and think of any conference championship game you can remember, and it's you see the goal line. It's just a goal line play that comes to your head.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't always love the number one back. The goal line back last week, we took Kareem Hunt. We had him. We hit big on the last TD. It ended up being the only TD for him. So I like AJ Dillon. Whether it's the anytime touchdown at 850, I want to say he's plus 2,200 for last TD. Those are a couple ones that are fun. But yeah, other than that, hey, you go on one of these, parlay a couple of these games together, help your odds out, put $10, $20 down. It's a lot of fun to watch. And hey, you don't know until you try. We're trying, I'm just trying to find a different method to enjoy sports day in, day out. I think the average consumer can enjoy going about it. Hey, $5, 5 bets, $25. You're going to be spending 3 hours watching that game. You spent more on 2 drinks in Chicago before. So.
Of course. And there's a certain, there's like moments in your life that are obviously like super happy and, you get a new job, you get married, things like that. But hitting on a random bet that like nobody else has that pays like 20 to 1 and you jump out of your seat. I remember I had one, it was like years ago. I was with my old roommate and I had something involving like Notre Dame. Like it was like a 3-team. It was one of those like 3 or 4 team parlays. Or no, this is what it was. It was my buddy was in Vegas and he was like, I need to do like this 3 or 4 team parlay. And he was like drinking all day. And I think I was too. And the last leg of the parlay was Lane Kiffin's last game at UFC, and we bet against him. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, you remember that when they just got smoked. We were just we're FaceTime, and he was in like a casino. They were turn off your phone, and we were going nuts because I want to say we each put down like $100 and won probably like I don't know $1,500, $2,000. Of course, we paid taxes on it, but anyways, it was a huge win, and it was great. Jordan Ballard. Prop, lock, and drop it. Best of luck to everyone out there. Jordan, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you later.
Happy Ben.